Hello. I'm sick. Being sick sucks. And so what? Sorry, I'm just in bed. So the camera's not gonna be any kind of steady. Basically, I couldn't make it into the studio, and I figured that the plan could be. I'm not. I'm a little loopy, but I kind of figured that something we really haven't done yet is I want there to be, just to get some of the story out there. I've been kind of doing this series talking about, like, well, this is how it works. I wanted to actually go through the story of something important, not worrying about the mechanics or how it works, but just go through, like, tip to tail, try and go through a story. And I picked a silly one because I don't know, because it's going on for a while and it has some characters I really like in it. But I wanted to tell you guys about the Archmages Parliment, Lonthara, and effectively the society that kind of polices magic for everyone in the universe. The Arc Lord, the Parliament, how they work, maybe how their government works. I don't know how I'm gonna feel by the end of this. But the so I guess basically where we're gonna end up eventually is that there is a sort of god of magic. The Arc Lord, the god of magic doesn't mean what you think it means. It does not mean that there is a god who's good at magic. It means it is the god magic worships. Magic as an entity worships this person, treats them as a god. That person is in charge of the city-state slash citadel Lonthara, which is a sort of magical obelisk nexus that where a certain ritual can be cast that can ebb or flow the tides of magic for entire regions of space all across the universe. Sorry. Basically, you can think of, there's this thing called the Maelstrom. You can think of the Maelstrom as all of ether, not magic, ether. There's a difference, I promise. Oh boy. You think of it as galaxy shaped. If you've ever seen the Milky Way, it looks like the Milky Way. It's this big, sort of, helical, spiral-like structure made of, like, mist. That's a kind of flat disc. It isn't, but let's pretend it's a flat disc. It's a sphere, but whatever. It's a hypersphere, but whatever. It exists in a alternative plane to the Prime Meridian. The Prime Meridian is where most physical stuff is. It is the plane of existence people live on. The Prime Meridian, the Legends universe is distinct from, say, the Forgotten Realms or something, because the planes aren't necessarily other places. The universe is structured differently. There's not, the spheres of power. When I say planes, the Prime Meridian is the midpoint. It is built. Other planes kind of serve a purpose. They're like, you can almost think of it as images stacked on top of each other with translucency. There's a lot of, like, the Maelstrom is, I think, the best example, but the other planes, people don't really live in the other planes. You can. People live in the Fae, but the Fae isn't a plane, the Prime Meridian has... when planes touch the Prime Meridian, they don't bounce into it, they don't cause great rifts in reality, they just sort of affect it, like the way that gravity affects Earth. Imagine if gravity and mass had nothing to do with each other. That gravity was just a thing you could put places, and gravity could wander off. Imagine if in, like, I don't know, Pakistan, there was no gravity, just like gravity didn't visit there. Weather. What if weather was, like, only present in some places and there was just an even temperature with no wind in places? Like, yes, scientifically, not impossible. Listen, let's just don't worry about that. I'm trying to illustrate planes cause forces. That's the way I'm gonna say it. Planes cause forces that impact certain areas. If weather were a plane, weather would look like something completely different. I don't know what's in there, but if that overlapped the prime meridian, in this example, Earth, in a certain way, whatever place that it intersected the most would experience weather as a byproduct. Gravity would be the same in this example, and if gravity and weather both intersected the place, then it has gravity and weather. A lot of planes do this. The prime meridian is largely fine without plane interaction, but the maelstrom is the largest non-prime meridian plane. I'm very loopy, and I've been thinking about the Forgotten Realms to set this example up. Forgive me. So the prime meridian and the maelstrom are synonymous. They're not synonymous, but their location is synonymous. The maelstrom fully overlaps, if not envelops, the prime meridian by design. It has to. Magic is supposed to be places, and the maelstrom is how the most usable form of magic gets to people. There are, primal magics. There are the second order, third order magics that people can still use. Sunlight, starlight, earthlight, moonlight are kind of the best example, but these primal magics, they exist inside the prime meridian as a sort of elemental force. It's generated by the things in the prime meridian. It's generated by the celestial bodies. The maelstrom is where ether comes from. That's where all your wizardy stuff happens. That's when somebody points and shoots a purple crackling bolt that does magic things when it hits people, when they teleport, when they wiggle their fingers and lightning comes crashing out of the sky. That wizardy stuff, the thing you would think of as sort of most wizardy, happens because of ether. Ether is a type of magic that was built to be used. Magic is... all magic, but especially ether, are responsive forces. I'm gonna have a whole thing in the How the Universe Works series about magic, probably several, and magic is a responsive force. The best way you can think about it is that most times magic works how you think it works. There are new magics get invented because of this fact all of the time. If people say, well, magic only works if I wear a traffic cone on my head and close my eyes and spin around while I'm casting it, magic will go, okay, sure, I guess that's how I work. And then if you tried to cast magic without doing that, well, it wouldn't work. Because magic, you've told magic the rules. Magic wants to do what, magic is a cooperative force. If it is so incredibly possible to convince magic it works a certain way, at which point, that is the only way it will work. Magic research, magic development was stifled for such a long time because people couldn't figure that out. Civilizations would meet each other, talk to each other, and they'd be like, yes, well, we have to wait for the stars to align, you see, and then other people would be like, no, we need to wait until the tide is low. And so they were both right. They just didn't know they were both right. So, there were a lot of wars that happened where strategic planners trying to figure out how the enemy would deploy their mages, or when they would be under the most threat of magical attack, trying to, develop a battle plan, were just utterly wrong. And a lot of people saw each other as barbarians because they all thought they were more civilized or they had figured out more. Okay, I'm getting it too much into the... Alright, I'm getting off track. I'm gonna do that a lot, probably. He's not the king of magic, the Arc Lord. They're more like they are the person magic worships. Magic has a consciousness, kind of. They have a consciousness the way a toddler has a consciousness. It is aware of people. It is mostly mechanical, but when you get that much magic together, things tend to grow a personality. Sometimes, not always. It's more to do with wisdom. If you gather wisdom, it has a personality. If you gather power, it becomes draconic. If you gather creativity, it gets bigger. There's a whole sort of elemental, the shape of wisdom is man, the shape of creativity is titans, and the shape of power is a dragon. It's a whole thing. I'm getting off track again. I'm sorry, I am loopy, I did warn you. Basically, there's this... the place we're gonna end at is that there's this sword, the Arcblade, that magic lives in. It is a looking glass. It is a one-way mirror that magic gets to look outside, and it gets to see into the Prime Meridian, the very, very heart of the Maelstrom, the sort of nexus of power, gets to see what's in the Prime Meridian and do something about it. It can learn and become attached and become affectionate, and what happens is that through the Arcblade, the Maelstrom will choose somebody. They will pick a person, and that person will be just worshipped by it. It'll say, "You're my god. I have chosen to have absolute faith and trust in you and whatever you say. You are, you cannot steer me wrong. You are a god. You cannot blaspheme. Whatever you say goes." And that tends to lead to people with a very short lifespan because all of magic is pressing down on them. Immortality does not help. It's a whole deal. There's a lot going on. And so the other side to that is that because there's Citadel, Lanthara, the city-state, where powerful enough mages, if you learn a very certain spell and you have enough other people with you it is a ritual, you need multiple people to do it, you can move the Maelstrom. Remember, the Maelstrom is galaxy-shaped. There are thin parts, there are edges, that are, there are gaps, in the mist, in the spiral. The basic function of Lanthara, or at least the most important thing they can do so much, but the most important thing that they can accomplish is they can move the tendrils of the Maelstrom. And remember, it's all about intersection. Wherever those tendrils are thickest, magic is most bountiful. The effect of Lanthara is that the Archmages Parliment can, if they can vote on it, if they can get enough Archmages to vote, by which I mean Archmages willing to perform the ritual, if you have enough of those, you can take away magic from somebody. You can say, this civilization, this planet in the far distance can no longer cast magic, there just isn't enough ether there to do it. And they do this all the time. Kyre is a realm that really wants to rule the world. They are so convinced that they are, Rome. They're ready to manifest that destiny, baby, and they wanna go out and conquer everybody. And they kind of try to do that all the time. Kyre is the realm of battle. It is a place ruled by they just believe that killing everybody is the right option, and or just the right thing to do. Like, hey man, I don't want to kill you, but I'm pretty sure that God has this plan, and it's so infallible that if you're necessary, you're not gonna die. Because I, a human, can't, supersede the will of God. That's impossible. If I throw this rock at your head and you live, God needs you, and I'm just gonna listen to whatever you do. So basically, listen everybody, I have this great plan to figure out what God wants. God has a plan, the plan is ineffable, and all we need to do to figure out what that plan is kill as many people as possible, and all the people who don't die are part of the plan, and we can work backwards from there. That will be our evidence base through which we can figure out what God wants. It's a great plan, let's all do it. Kyre has started many wars, and the Archmages Parliment have just kind of decided to utterly remove magic from them, and then once time zones became a thing, they shoved them into a Bronze Age locker where they couldn't create things like heavy artillery pieces and without or spaceships, and without that magic or technology, they are kind of stuck in the realm that they're stuck in the section of space that they are. That doesn't stop them from trying. I'm memeing a lot on Kyre. A lot of the people in Northbound love to meme on Kyre. Kyre's a really interesting place with some really interesting stories. The holy men and the different sects. There are, different branches of the religion, but this is supposed to be about the Lonthara, so I'm sorry. I am tangent man. I'm so good at that. If I plan on doing this for a while, running the channel, I mean. I'm really good at tangents. Okay, man, I shouldn't do this when I'm sick. Yeah, so, the Archmages Parliment has the ability to take away magic from people. They kinda need the Arc Lord to do it most of the time. They can get by without them, so long as they have the Arc Blade, they can kinda do enough of what they need to do to make it make sense. It is harder, though, and it tends to have the low cost of one or two of the Archmages in the ritual maybe dying. So they like to have the Arc Lord around. There's also the whole problem of the Arc Lord being super mortal. You know what? Okay, no. We'll get there. So how did this happen? The universe didn't start with this. The universe started with just, okay, there's a maelstrom, and it's gonna move around. There were some things put in place to try and control the maelstrom. You know what? We're gonna start even further back. We're gonna start with the Arc Blade. The Arc Blade was not designed to be the host of magic. That wasn't intentional. Okay. So before the universe ever existed, there was the planet Arcanon, the city Adarast, that was exactly the size of the imagination. This place was the prototyping area, that Allura built to figure out how they were going to make the world. I believe she was like, all right, I'm going to run some tests. I'm going to make a race of people, see what they do, and iterate on it. There was a prototyping phase before the universe ever got made. There's a whole other mess where the freezing, the sort of state of the universe was at the time. You know, we're not going to get into that. But the freezing is around. It's bad. I think we're going to have to get into a little bit, because we're going to eventually talk about magical, but I think we'll figure it out. There was a shape of the universe. The universe liked being how it was. The universe had a one true God. The universe had an ultimate being that owned it, and it was perfect. The most perfect anything could be, and was when it is one. Sorry, the most ordered anything could be is when it was one, and it was order. Allura wanted chaos, and invented people, and the freezing didn't like that. It was freezing because it was cold. It was stagnant. It was a perfect sheet of ice. Nothing ever needed to happen. And then Allura was like, but what if things happened? And the freezing was like, I don't know. And eventually, To create the universe, the freezing had to be shattered. The freezing had to be utterly demolished so that there would be room for the fire, for chaos, for the universe to exist. And the remnants of the shattering utterly hate. It is order, it abhors chaos, it needs to destroy the universe because the universe is flawed, it is imperfect, and it wants to return to a state of perfection, so it is constantly trying to destroy the universe. We'll talk more about that in a little bit, and I'm sure there will be its own episode on it. But right now, we have tensions are high, Allra and the freezing says, well, Allra is doing this, and Allra is the one, they are the Adenon, they are the ultimate being, owner of everything, so we're cool with it for now, we're not dead yet, like, we aren't a consciousness, so it's a whole thing. The three races Allra starts with are dragons, beings of ultimate power, titans, beings of ultimate creativity, and the Aldari, later known as Etherians, by people who were looking at a race and go, I don't know what your name is, I'm just going to write this down in my journal, who are the beings of ultimate wisdom. Shape, which would then lead to the shape of wisdom, shape of power, shape of creativity. At one point, the dragons kind of roll up, and they're like, hey, I'm stronger. I feel like that should mean something. It's not like that. I'm being very glib. It was about their nature. They were strength incarnate, so potential energy didn't suit them. There was a brutality they could not fulfill. It was an intellectual exercise. It was not driven by malice. It was what it was. I'm sorry, I'm 20 minutes in and I'm not anywhere near the point, so I'm trying to cut it short, but I am being very glib. This is a universe that takes itself seriously. These were people that took themselves very seriously. This didn't happen. It happened for foolish reasons, but they didn't know that. They couldn't know that. There was no knowing to know yet. No one had the first mistake had never been made, so there was no lesson to learn. But the dragons, the Aldari, and the Titans needed to figure out they wanted a way to judge themselves. They wanted a way to compete, and nothing quite worked. So, the greatest scholar, he definitely is, the greatest scholar on Arcanon, the Aldari scholar Anirnan, which a name you're going to hear just so much. This guy is unbelievably important to the universe in so many stories. The three monarchs of Adarast and the Lord of Dragons and their avatar, as well as the Titans, cooperate to basically task Anirnan with coming up with a way to compete that would satisfy them, that would lead to satisfaction. And Anirnan invents battle. He invents combat. He invents fighting. He invents war and murder. He doesn't know that yet. He thinks he's fulfilling. He's given, if you've ever been asked to make everything, you're given a list of requirements, and it's your job to build it. He did that. He didn't know better. There's so much more to this. He has this Anirnan's great book that can reset, there's a mess. He learns a lot of lessons. He ends up becoming probably the wisest person in the entire universe. Maybe as wise as Allra. I don't know. There's Atham and Ruminor, and you know what? I don't really like listing, this person's definitely the most X, because there are so many exceptions and rules, and, what are they good at? What are they... Regardless, Anirnan invents battle, and the first ever war happens, and Anirnan is utterly crushed by this. He enters an incredibly deep depression because people are killing each other, and it's his fault. But basically, the dragons ends up being led by two creatures, the Dragon Father, and Calither, which is the avatar of dragons. The avatar of something is the epitome of a thing. The avatar is the physical, it's not just the embodiment, it is Sum, I am. It is the actuality of what it is to be that thing. So the avatar of dragons, Calither, was everything dragons were. She was arrogant. She was unbelievably mighty. She was jealous. She is all of these things, and basically, and just as a note of how avatars work, if she had changed, if she had become kind, all dragons would become kind. That is the necessity of all dragons are all things are necessarily like their avatar, but the avatar is only what all of them are. Everything has exceptions. All of them do. In fact, people define themselves by how they are different. The avatar doesn't get to do that. The avatar is what they are, but dragons are a very particular case. Being the avatar of dragons, she wasn't happy being a stoic creature that never did anything. The avatar of humans is in a room somewhere sleeping probably forever, not because humans sleep a lot, but because they don't feel the need to act. They are a necessity. They don't have a will or drive. They are almost an inanimate object in some ways. They are ethereal. They don't always have a physical form. But dragons being dragons, the avatar of dragons decided it wanted to be more than an essence. It wanted to be more than this, intangible, divine thing. It wanted to be a dragon, because it's a dragon. No one's gonna tell it what to do. It's a dragon. It's gonna go around, it's gonna be doing dragon things. It decided to give itself a name. It was like, hey, dragons, I'm your mom now. And the dragons were like, you're stronger than us, because if any dragon were stronger than you, you wouldn't be the epitome of strength. The avatar of dragons is necessarily the strongest dragon. And then there was, the Dragon Father, who is called that because Calither was like, guess what? You're the strongest dragon. I like strength. You're mine now. Again, I'm being so glib, but basically, Calither enters a war. This causes a problem because the Titans and the Etherians go, man, if we kill the avatar of dragons, dragons don't have a being anymore. That's problematic. There has to be an avatar of dragons. It would be so catastrophic if they were to die. Also, there's the small problem of how are we gonna kill it? That's kind of hard. The Eldari have some of the most powerful people there have ever been. Anirnan is on that list. Ryzakel. Seo was around at that time. I think he was still general. Mayenna was queen. Yes, Mayenna would have had to have been queen at that point. Mayenna was queen, and Necrotol, who's, just cheating. Necrotol, the point is, they had to figure out, how are we actually going to deal with any of this? The plan was Umbala, the greatest of the Titans, specifically, I mean greatest as in he was the greatest craftsman. All Titans are craftsmen. In fact, they are what they craft. What they make defines them. Titans don't really have a memory necessarily. Their memory are the physical objects that they make. If you've ever heard an artist say, man, I put my heart and soul into that, Titans literally do. They are their body of work. This isn't man, well, if I sit down and look at, I don't know, if I look at, who's any actor? for some reason I'm trying to think of any actor's name. Paul. I don't know. If we look at Ryan Reynolds and we look at his body of work, we'll be able to maybe figure out what he's like. With a Titan, you literally can do that. They are what they build. In fact, if they make a bunch of statues and then you go and break one of those statues, that Titan loses that memory. They lose who they were when they built that statue. If they were, let's say the Titan was, I don't know, if that's when they fell in love. The Titan, they got married when they were working on this project, and when it was finished, and that project got destroyed, they wouldn't remember why they loved this person. That part of them is gone. It is destroyed. You have actually broken a piece of history. It no longer exists for this person. It is no longer a part of them. And so, Umbala, the greatest of the Titans, had a lot going. Just kind of hearing about what they will, you won't be surprised to learn that Titans, when they craft something, when something is Titan-made, that doesn't necessarily mean it's the strongest magic item in the world. It does mean it's very resilient. Titans do not make things that break, because if they did, it would be a problem for them. It is part of their nature. So Umbala came up with a plan. He built a series of weapons that were supposed to be sealing weapons. They were supposed to trap things. He made a series of them. One of them happened to be a sword. This is the one that would eventually become the Archblade. What the idea basically was, well, if we can't kill Calithair, because that would just be catastrophic, we can trap her. We can seal her in something that will never break. So we have to have it built by someone whose things can't break. So Umbala, Lord of the Titans, crafted a series of weapons. One of them happened to be a sword. They never ended up getting used. Necrotal figured out that he was actually kind of invincible, and ended the war. At one point, the Rohanan get made, a bunch of, which are effectively dragon riders wearing all Titan-made equipment. The idea was that if we all fuse my wisdom, your power, and your creativity into one being, then we will be nigh unstoppable. And the Rohanan showed up, tried policing things. It largely worked, and Necrotal just kind of laid the smack down on absolutely everyone who was out of line. With Seo and Ryzakel backing him up, there was just no way the war couldn't end. It's more like there was no way the war could continue. So especially because, Ryzakel and the Dragon Father vanished. It was a whole deal. The important thing for our story is that the sword never gets used. There was a sword that was originally intended to seal inside of it the Avatar of Dragons, and it never gets used. It's still out there. Fast forward a lot. The universe gets created. The freezing becomes the shattering. The machine that is the universe, and the machine that is the custodian of the universe, by the way, called the Titan. I know it's confusing. Listen, it's I don't know, lore creep. I can't change it. It is what it is. Sentient machine. It is effectively a sentient suit of armor that the universe wears to keep it safe from the shattering. The universe is actually much, much smaller than the shattering. There is a single star in a sea of shattered glass, and that star is the universe, and the shattered glass wants it dead. So the Titan also happens to have all of the functions that render the universe. That's kind of its job. So there are, Found of Aging, I guess, this is pretty important for the story. There is the universe comes, built in a one true God, an archangel whose job it was to manage magic. It was supposed to be, the god, one true god. This god and the gods that would show up in the Age of Miracle, unbelievably different. But I guess linguistically, it's where the universe gets the word god from. The word deity. Anyway, so there is this super omega archangel whose job it is to basically do kind of two things. Keep the universe safe and be bad at their job. The one true god is a position that was built to be usurped. It was designed so that if a hero could ever ascend to its throne, it would be handed over. The intended goal, remember, Aura wants a universe that will surprise them. So they build the seat of one true god. They build a throne with great power, endow it to an archangel that is designed to be responsible. This is a created being. This is a creature with a function, with one job, and that is what they are. And that part of that function is to hand off this power once a creature born of the universe, a creature who's isn't, designed to be a custodian, can get to its seat. It will hand it over so that it can be replaced. This seraph does their best to be faultful, they specifically make it desirable to replace them. That is part of their duty. And this works for a little while until this woman shows up. She's an incredibly accomplished swordsman, but the throne rejects her, and her plan is to kill the previous one true god and usurp the throne. It was supposed to be handed over peacefully. This was designed, the final test was not supposed to be one of battle. The universe is supposed to be a kind place. She doesn't do that. She kills them. One of the Amenhotep, one of the true immortals, realizes that's bad, and the true immortal does some thinking and says, I kind of do like the universe, and locks her down. She just puts her to sleep forever, locks her in a giant tower, and so then there becomes to be this ancient, powerful, as far as they know, lich. They don't know it's literally the same race as the creator, an over-being, not even born from the universe, but born from a fabric of nothing other than its own will and some of the creator's light. They don't know that. They're just like, okay, big mean lich, sealed away princess, and I hear the call to battle. I, a hero, feel the desire to go to this tower and be heroic, because the throne is still calling to people. She, this warrioress gets wounded in her final battle, and she's pretty smart. She got there in the first place. She decides to use the call of the throne to try and drag in a hero of similar power who she could steal the life from, steal the youth, steal the power of, and use that to revitalize her so she can rule the world with an iron fist as its one true god. And Vengeganeroth decides to try and be nice. The true immortals, they're trying to be nice. They just don't know how the universe works. They didn't know that they were going to explode time or destroy heaven or start a war start a war against yourself in the past. They didn't know they were going to do that. They're just playing around. They're these big over beings that do, they're fooling. They're having a good time. But they do kind of like the universe, even if they won't admit it. At the very least, they want to own it. It's the only universe around, and they can't make one. So, Vengeganeroth kind of starts this perpetual cycle of, let's be real, no hero ever is going to be able to beat a true immortal if they don't want to be beaten. I understand that I'm using a lot of proper nouns that you guys won't know unless you're watching this after a bunch of other videos have come out, but just work with me. So, the result of this is no more one true god. There was supposed to be this custodian who could control the ebb and flow of the maelstrom. That doesn't exist anymore. We lost that. Sorry. It doesn't work anymore. We broke it. And so the universe kind of limps on. With the removal of the Seraph of Light and the seat of the one true god, people kind of have to make up the difference. They come up with the Archivists. The universe, the Titan, starts reaching out to people, being like, hey, you're a strong mage. I need your help. There's no one true god making sure gravity works anymore. I need to make sure that, tomorrow is as long as it was, tomorrow is as distant as it was yesterday. It would be a mess if we ever actually reached tomorrow. We need it to be today forever. What if it accidentally becomes yesterday? That would suck. Nothing would work anymore. The present needs to remain the present and not the future or the past. Boy howdy, their magic exists. We don't want anything slipping. So they end up getting, so they end up putting together this group of unbelievably powerful mages who have reached the end of their ascendance. Transcendence, not legends, but transcendence, whose job it is to make sure that the universe keeps working. They are deeply overworked. They are run by a bureaucracy who is run by a machine whose job it is to make sure everything works. They care a lot about being punctual. They care a lot about paperwork and have you checked this? And I don't know, is that up to code? They're a bureaucracy for the greater good or else. Because if they don't work, nothing does. They have to do their job, and they have to do their job really, really well. One of these archivists ends up being Madrigold. Madrigold, I'm gonna be honest, I just love him. I love him so much. He is a character that has caused such an incredible amount of harm to the universe, but I like him. He's fun to write. He's fun to put my head in where, regardless, that's kind of the odd. I don't like putting my thumb on the scale if I can help it. But Madrigold, he's just wild and so much fun, and the stories he creates are so much fun. He ends up getting his hands on the Arcblade, the, at this point, unnamed, unused Arcblade, Umbala's creation that was designed, at this point, unbelievably in the past. It's actually a different mage that gets their hand on it first. Another pretty catty wizard, who ends up, kind of running tests on the Arcblade, becomes evil. Archivists have to stop him because he's trying to, harness the power of the sun to, I don't even remember, there's a lot of stories and legends, but he was trying to do something evil, and the archivists walked up to a group of adventurers and they were like, man, we will give you so much loot if you stop this guy. And so they do it. Madrigold walks in as part of the cleanup crew, finds a treasure hoard, and he kind of decides, well, it'd be neat if I had that treasure hoard, so he takes it. By the way, I have been glib about most things up to this point. All the glibness I have been sort of exuding, and people doing things for silly reasons or being goofy to shorthand it, that is actually how Madrigold thinks. That is genuinely how he works. He is the reason I wanted to talk about the Shattering at all and kind of this force that wants to destroy the universe constantly is because the Archivists are constantly working against it. That's part of their job. They have to push back against that. The problem is, when you expose your mind to that sort of force, it takes a toll. It causes a little bit of slippage. One of the most dangerous things the full black moon can do is shift your perspective to one where the universe is cancerous, where the universe is actually the problem. The full black moon has caused, is the cause of fallen legends. It's literally the definition, is usually fallen anything, not fallen angels, those are different, but fallen almost anything tends to mean the full black moon got to it. And the Archivists are at constant exposure. Think of it like radiation. If you get too much, if you get too big a dose, it is bad. So you are constantly monitoring that. You are constantly like, what is your tolerance? How do you respond to this? And people are getting checked every day. This is, safety first. They really, boy howdy, the Archivists care a lot about safety because it is their job to keep everyone safe. Well, not to keep everyone safe, but to make sure that the universe works. Oh, fuck. I shouldn't swear. Oh well, I'm not editing this. So the Archivists are constantly exposed to this kind of stuff, and that tends to drive some people a little wild. Madrigold is a great example of this. Madrigal had a really, really high tolerance to the full Black Moon's influence because he had a couple of screws loose to start. So a perspective of the universe is wrong and imperfect, and everything should be perfect and orderly doesn't work so much if you're crazy to start. But if, at the same time, if you take crazy and add massive doses of the full Black Moon's influence, it also doesn't end well. Add to this that Madrigal is, by all accounts, the most brilliant mage to have ever lived. It can get a little funny. Madrigal, he's the kind of person where, if he gets in a wizard duel and someone's like, I cast Fireball, he goes, I think you mean Madrigal's Fireball. This is a guy who once, quarantined a planet until every man, woman, and child was wearing pantaloons. Regardless, brilliant mage, creates some of the most important magic in the world. He invents he legitimately invents, Titan opens up some of its basically source code to it, starts teaching people about first order, second order, third order magic, and Madrigal goes, that's interesting, I wonder if we could control the fabric of reality, and that ends up allowing for a lot of the magics archivists use to make sure the universe works. Madrigal, he's the kind of guy that once figured out, what is the highest possible level magic I could use to make a functioning coffee maker? That'd be funny. So anyways, the Arcblade, he, at one point, because he's crazy, he gets censured a lot. He gets thrown in prison a lot. People don't want him getting too big a dose. It would be really bad if Madrigal ever fell. So the archivists are trying to keep a close eye on him. Turns out you can't lock up a wizard if they don't want you to, especially if they're smarter than you. It's not gonna work out. So what they try locking up Madrigal a bunch, he keeps escaping, they make better prisons, he escapes those, or they make the best prison and they can't get him into it. And eventually they just kind of decide, okay, we're gonna start putting you on probation. You do what we ask you to, and we'll stop trying to throw you in prison. Community service time. And Madrigal being Madrigal, he looks at one particular piece of, at one point, he's thrown into community service for some crazy stuff he's doing, messing with planets out in the wild, trying to invent some kind of new magic, and they go, okay, community service time, save this planet. This planet, it needs to be saved, just fix it. And Madrigal thinks to himself, well, I could do that, or I could get some adventurers to do it for me. So he teleports wiggles his fingers, scries a bunch of people out in the universe, and teleports them right in front of him and goes, guys, good news! I'm a wizard from the future telling you that you need to save the world. Here's a bunch of stuff. Fate has decreed it, go forth. And basically kind of exists as the quest-giving NPC for these people, only to reach an end point where this group of heroes does his work for him, or at least he thinks they're doing his work for him, until they realize that the person trying to destroy the world in the first place is Madrigal, and he hired people to stop him because he didn't read the full briefing, and he's like, oh, what? You're trying to save that planet? No, they suck, actually. I want them dead. They were mean to me. Die. And he tries to fight the group of adventurers. They escape. Madrigal gets bored and leaves because he kind of forgets. And those adventurers are left with Madrigal's sword. Or at least a part of it, and in that is the Arcblade. They take it and kind of start researching it. They are hailed as heroes. They've saved this planet. So they, but also they're aware of threats as big as Madrigal, so they kind of start doing research. They start picking apart, I keep looking at the camera and realizing that there's a picture of Sarah Angel there. My mom really likes Sarah Angel. She's played Magic forever. It's a whole thing. Maybe I'll talk about it at one point. Anyways, I have a Sarah Angel painting because it's, my mom's, and she loves it, and I am very proud of my mom. I think she's great. Sorry, again, Loopy. I'm working on it. They don't know what it is, but they have the Arcblade, and they start playing with it, and they basically point this nation's best wizards at the magical sword. Figure out what this is, what can we use, how are we going to build a defense that's going to work against crazy wizards from outer space. That's the thing we need to defend against from now. Figure it out for me. And they get hold of Madrigal's books, and one wizard in particular, many generations later, many fields of study are formed. They are at this for a couple hundred years until this one particular wizard named Anignon gets his hands on the work of everyone that came before him. They treat this like a science. He kind of reads through the papers. He figures out what the Arcblade is. They've known what the Arcblade is for a while now, but it's useless to them. They're like, yes, if we stab something, we could capture a space wizard if they show up, but we could only capture one of them, and we'd have to, get to the point where we're stabbing them. That doesn't seem like a viable plan for national defense. We'll keep it on the back burner, but, these explosion things are much more useful, or how about we try creating a form of this we could equip with everyone with? So the Arcblade is around, but it's not really useful enough that a professor at one of the higher-end colleges can get their hands on it for research without the military feeling strongly about it. And that works out until Anignon comes up with this plan. Anignon develops a spell to traverse the planes. There are other spells like this. His is a little different. Anignon modifies one of the most powerful spells in the universe, a spell called Trespass. The reason Trespass is so powerful is because it can go anywhere, and most importantly, the thing that makes it so difficult is that when you go there, people don't know you went there. You are trespassing. He modifies it to where he can basically drop into grid coordinates. He uses that, he looks at some of Madrigal's research, and he basically figures out, A, that the Maelstrom exists. They've kind of known this for a little while, but there's this new funny research paper someone came out with, one of his students, that says, hey, if there is a Maelstrom, we could probably figure out its center point. We might be able to sort of triangulate where the center of the Maelstrom is, and we might be able to learn more about the universe. This is useful for astronomy. So Anignon kind of puts all of this together, and he comes up with a funny little plan. He takes the Arcblade, he modifies the Trespass spell. It's being able to cast Trespass is already ridiculously difficult. So if you can cast it, modifying it isn't terribly hard. It's just a question of, well, how effective is it going to be? And he basically uses this research paper. He kind of juices some scientists. He's able to pour funds where he needs them to be, and to get people to no, I'm telling you, we should be really interested in how big the universe is, and if there are space wizards out there, where are they coming from? Let's try and learn more about this. And is basically able to triangulate where the center of the Maelstrom probably is. He runs into a bunch of other barriers. Gadon doesn't want anyone intruding. The Maelstrom overlaps with Gadon. It's a huge problem, but couple strokes of genius and honestly luck later, Anignon is able to basically craft a teleport spell to get him close to the heart of the Maelstrom. Now, the Maelstrom is not called the Maelstrom for no reason. It is an endless torrent of infinite magic blowing like a hurricane. It rips you apart. It is so incredibly difficult to craft a vessel that can withstand it, and even if you can, not for long, and even if you can, who knows where you're going to get blown to. Anignon does a lot of research. He figures he doesn't need the craft to last long. He builds one using other artifacts in Madrigal's Hoard. He is able to take the Arcblade, jump in the craft, go into the Maelstrom, get to its heart, and stab it with the Arcblade. Stab it with a sealing sword designed to withstand, contain the full might of Calithair. This mostly works. Magic can't leave the Maelstrom, but it also fully exists in the Archblade now. The Maelstrom is in 2 places. Anignon takes the Archblade, and Magic sees someone, not for the first time, but as a consciousness. All of Magic is pointed at the same focal point, and that focal point is being held and wielded by someone. This is when Magic decides, you're probably God. Imagine you're the Maelstrom for a minute. Imagine that you only get these flashes, that you're a hive mind without real consciousness. You're an army. You're an army of ants. You're not a full functioning thinking person the same way that a sentient human being is. You don't experience things the same way, and all of a sudden, the sky is torn asunder, and you get a window into one particular person that won't go away. You have an imaginary friend now that you are stuck with, and they show you things you've never seen before. The Maelstrom worships Anignon, and Anignon promptly goes mad with power. He decides, I am the god of magic. He calls himself the Archlord. He gives himself the loftiest title he can think of. And he starts a war. He takes the civilization. He leaves. I can't remember which one. It's either Indiquin or Revalan. I'm pretty sure it's Indiquin. Pretty sure. It's probably Indiquin. I don't remember. I'm not looking at my notes. This is largely off the dome. And Anignon starts a bunch of wars, says, I'm the god of magic, all wizards should bow to me. He casts a spell that goes straight into the minds of every single spellcaster ever, and says, I am Anignon, I am your lord, bow to me, gather before me, and kind of decides he might be able to take over the universe. Unfortunately, legends existed at this point, and so the defense plan that was originally designed to try and stop space wizards is now dealing with space wizards and legends. People who gather up, most of them are Morban Arathian, and also Cowl. Cowl is Anignon's grandson, who is kind of endowed with the full might of the Maelstrom as well. Cowl is a little bit like a living Archblade, but not really, but yes, but actually no. He's exactly like that, except not at all. Who is this just sort of all-powerful wizard who is kind of really bad at magic. He's really bad at, like, the finer details. He's not good at, like, specific or complex spells. He couldn't, say, make a spear out of fire and twirl it around, but he could cast the biggest fireball you've ever seen. So Cowl decides, hey, maybe we shouldn't rule the world. Cowl is, he's he has a lot of social anxiety. It doesn't help that you're kind of all-powerful and you have, like, your dad is trying to, your granddad is trying to rule the world. He has a rough upbringing. He doesn't really like people. He's pretty antisocial. But he decides that ruling the universe, probably not chill, and Morban Arathian, the universe's dad, not really, but he's the one that shows up and says, hey, sport, how you doing? Let me help you with your homework. Morban is the Legends universe's Superman, except not at all. He's walking around doing good because good needs to be done to show people that good can be done. Morban Arathian rolls up and is effectively helps put a stop to Anignon. They beat him, they lock him in a dungeon, and now they're left with the Archblade, which they now understand what it does. And people are like, that's a problem. No one person should control magic. That's bad. Let's do it with let's do it democracy style. Let's get, they try a bunch of different methods. Doesn't necessarily work. They end up creating the Archmages Parliment, which is a little bit like UN for magic, except with actual authority and a lot of it. God, I'm so dizzy. I need to stop moving my head around, but, Anyway, so they do the, I'm gonna have to wrap this up soon. So they gather this up, they a bunch of iterations later, they make an Archmages Parliment. The Archmages promptly go mad with power. The Amesian Empire, well, technically the Amesian Empire isn't around yet, but the Singrand family, which is mostly dragons, they're one of the High Houses. I think they're High House Mage. I can't remember. The High Houses are the most powerful families in the universe. The universe kind of keeps an internal list of who are the best at what thing. Except not really, not at all, in fact. The universe is more trying to monitor these people so that it can learn how this thing works. The universe is designed to grow. The people in the universe are designed to grow exponentially, and the universe has some tools that it was built with to try and keep up. So the High Houses are people that are incredibly notable, incredibly powerful, and the universe monitors them, and in turn gives them extra power. They kind of have a enchantment built into their blood that helps them do their thing, so the universe can see what happens when the best in the field get even more power. The High Houses can change. It's not always the same thing. The High Houses can... names can get knocked off the list if a new family grows more powerful, but the universe is basically, the Singrand family has enough power to walk up to the Lunthara. By the way, Lunthara was Anagnon's castle, designed to be a focal point and sort of amplify the Archblade's power. It eventually becomes a city-state and House of the Parliament. The Singrand family, I think it was the Singrand family, it might not have been, it might have been the Vanelise, probably Singrand, I don't remember. The family, what with the dragons, that collects planets. It's a family, they like collecting planets. Dragons like things, this is a family of dragons, they're like, we'll collect planets, it'll be cool. So they basically use a bunch of magic to tow planets into position when they want them to. They decide that Lunthara being a city-state works, but its position needs to be changed. The Empire wins the argument, and Lunthara ends up getting towed into the Empire. Specifically, it actually gets towed into Ruminor, but the Kingdom of Ruminor, not the person, it's named after the person. Ruminor had this Grand family in it at the time, and they were like, King Ruminor was like, hey, Archmages, I have some neat plans that would be really cool if you helped out with. And they were like, I don't know, we're autonomous. And he was like, I don't know, you're in my airspace. And they're like, no, we're not. And the Grand family says, yes, you are. And it's a whole thing. Ruminor also basically utterly upends the way that the Archmages Parliment worked. It wasn't a parliament at that point. It was more like a senate with only very powerful people. They didn't really care like who the mages were. It's also like basically it's run by Indoquin. Only Indoquin mages or only Indoquini mages are actually like in the parliament at all. With like a Vanthyr doesn't get any representation at all. And Ruminor goes full Teddy Roosevelt, breaks the trust wide open, and restructures it from the ground up. He says, okay, it's gonna work like this. You're gonna have to have representatives from these areas. You're gonna have to have advisors from others. You are going to spend time rotating Archmages between the realms to try and learn each other's culture. You have to do a certain amount of this. You're gonna have to write me a book report showing me you actually cared. He really rebuilds their system of government. Then he dies. The Kingdom of Ruminor falls, the Amesian Empire takes its place, and the Singrand family's still around, goes, well, you know what, the Amesian Empire, pretty cool, it ate Ruminor and all the other kingdoms, so it's literally, it's an empire, it is a empire of realms, so there are technically there are 12 realms in the universe, but actually there's 21, because 11 of them are just the empire. They are ruled by one dude, and they have 11 different realm laws. I think it's 11. I don't remember. It's been a while. I'm really trying to get to the end of this. I'm breaking out in a bit of a cold sweat. So, the The Archmages Parliment, it works for a little while. Ruminor's system works a lot, and then the Arcblade, still kind of chilling, still having the Maelstrom looking through it, finds another guy and says, it basically makes the rules of Ruminor, picks it up, teaches it a lesson, says, hey, you should really go to someone who's pure of heart. And the Maelstrom doesn't quite know what that means, so the Maelstrom basically decides, you know who's pure of heart? Children. I'm going to just sort of pick a random baby at the moment of its birth, appear and be like, you're God, and boy howdy, I hope that baby grows up well. And so, effectively, a couple thousand years after the Archmages Parliment gets established in earnest, the Arcblade sort of reawakens, decides, actually, I did like having a god, picks a new baby, and now we have the Arclord problem all over again. We have to have the Arcblade coexist. The Arcblade and the Maelstrom's kind of will, or at least the will of the Arclord in charge of the Maelstrom, coexist with the Parliament. This leads to an interesting government. They kind of figured out, but not really. What ends up happening is that basically the Arclord becomes a puppet for the Archmages Parliment. Ruminor is long dead. The biggest war ever happens. The Age of Apocalypse starts. The Archmages sort of, not even sort of, they've been corrupt for a while. People, corruption finds a way, and people kind of weren't paying enough attention because the Emperor really wanted Lonthara to be autonomous. It really wanted to leave it as a city-state. There, it's Italy saying, it's Italy to the Vatican, like, I'm gonna do my best to leave you be. That it quickly grows corrupt. The Archlords are just a series of pawns that the Parliament is using to do whatever they want. And then the wizard Tiramuse joins the Parliament. I'm pretty sure it was Tiramuse. Yeah, it was Tiramuse. So Tiramuse, he has a twin brother named. Tiramuse has a twin brother named Taramuse. Tiramuse looks and goes. And basically, the Age of Apocalypse starts. Tiramuse is doing his best. Some of the other Parliament are doing their best. The Parliament kind of does a vote of no confidence for the universe, and decides that we're going to join the... I'm trying to be vague here because this is the biggest story in Legends, and I want to get to it, and I want to do it really, really right, and I don't want to spoil too many things. But, in fact, maybe I shouldn't even spoil this. It's so hard because, all right, I mean, we got this far. Basically, yeah, all right, we'll end it there. That is the story, almost the entire story of how the Archmages Parliment came to be. Let's say that the last leg of the journey, the last step's a doozy. Quite a bit more happens. I'm probably going to go back on this right now, but I shouldn't make that decision with an adult brain, so I won't. I will leave it there. That is the story of what the Parliament is, how it works, how we got there. And hopefully you learned some of the other lore along the way, because boy howdy, did we touch on a lot of things. I hope you had a good time. I need to take some Dayquil. Yeah, man. See you next time.